I'm SD, and let's say you go to tailor one of your dress shirts and you notice that it actually came from the store with a seam on there and you like the look of that seam. Well, what is that seam? It's a flat felled seam. Can you keep it? Yes, you can. I'm gonna show you how to do it. I don't like long intros though. Let's do this. This right here, this is what a flat felled seam looks like. Now, the two easiest ways to tell whether or not your dress shirt has a flat felled seam are, well, the first way is there's two lines of stitching running right through here. That's the easiest way. But I've seen some dress shirts out there that actually only have one row of stitching instead of the two here. So the second easiest way to tell is to turn it like that. You see how it sits, well, I don't know, flat? Yeah, that's why it's called a flat felled seam. Now, what's really nice about a flat felled seam is it sits flat on the side of your body, so it's actually super comfortable. Normally when you tailor a dress shirt, at least every time that we tailor a dress shirt, or if you were to take your dress shirt to a tailor, what's gonna happen is this is the side of your shirt and this is that new seam that we just created. Now see how it's kind of sticking up like that? What we can do and what we end up doing is, yeah, we can finish this. We can do a zigzag stitch over this so it doesn't fray, or we could cut it with some pinking shears, which again, so it doesn't fray. But what we can't change is this angle. It still sticks up, it still kind of like tickles the side of your body and you're like, oh, I don't like that at all. So what's the alternative to that? Well, a flat felled seam. Now, the good news about a flat felled seam is, yes, you can totally do this. It's easily recreatable. If you were to take your dress shirt to a tailor, they actually wouldn't do this. The reason why they wouldn't do this is because it takes a little bit more time. Not a lot of time, but if you're tailoring on a mass scale, they don't have time to do things like this. So they're just gonna do, the old school, here you go. And I mean, it fits, but it's not super comfortable. And a flat felled seam, what it does is it runs all the way up of the side of the shirt. This is the armpit right here, and it goes all the way through to the sleeve. Now, if your dress shirt already has a flat felled seam on it, yes, you can keep it. If your shirt does not have a flat felled seam on it, what's gonna happen is you can make it very easily down here, which I'm gonna show you why that is the case, why you can only do it down here and not up here. You can do it on the body of the shirt, but once you get to the sleeve, that's a big no-no, and it's because of the angle that you end up sewing in. Now, you're gonna sew in a straight line here, but what happens is, you got the front of your shirt and then you got the back side right down here. So you're kind of sewing it just like that. Well, guess what? You're sewing the top and you're sewing the bottom. So you can't do it on the sleeve here. No bueno, but that's totally okay. And you also might notice this same seam on your jeans, and it's the exact same thing. You unfortunately can't do it on a pair of jeans, nor can you do it on a t-shirt for that same reason. Your garment is gonna sit flat, your sewing machine is gonna go over it, just and you're gonna sew this top part, yeah, here, that's fine, but the bottom part, you don't want a stitch going through there. You just want it up here. And just so you completely understand the reason as to why you can do it on the body and not the sleeve is because the front of your dress shirt, it's got buttons on it. So you could just completely unbutton the whole thing just like that. See how it's sitting flat? Just like that. This is our seam right here. We're just gonna sew right over it. We're sewing the top, but again, we wanna sew the bottom here. So it's not doubled up or double layered like that. Capiche? Capiche. And I also gotta tell you this really quick. So I bought this t-shirt, or this dress shirt from Target for a couple different tutorials. Now, it was all kind of crumpled up, it was super wrinkled, but it was hanging on the hanger. And do you remember when I've told you that you absolutely always need to wash your clothes whenever you buy them? Like you just have to. The reason why you have to is because you can't smell this shirt right now, but you know what this shirt smells like? It smells like some dude wore it, he bought it, he decided to, wear it out one night, he's gonna go to a club, he puts on his cologne, so you can smell like cologne on it, and you can smell dude, and you can tell that he ended up getting rejected by a girl, so he was all ashamed about it, he never wanted to wear this shirt ever again, so he decided to return it to Target. What did Target do? Well, whatever, let's just hang it back up. So because of that, I gotta get through this. This smell is just, it's so gross. Okay, so this is what we got going on here. But wait, SD, this doesn't look like the same shirt that you had before. Well, it's not, and the reason for that is because I have two pieces of fabric, because I'm gonna show you two two different ways on how you can do this. You can either do this where your shirt is inside out, where you measure it and you pin it and you tailor it inside out, or you could do everything that I just said right side in, meaning like the shirt looks totally normal, completely normal, and you actually put this stitch on the normal side of the shirt. And what that's gonna determine is whether or not you're gonna have two lines on here or one. It's actually pretty cool once you do it. So this is kind of what I mean. When you tailor a dress shirt, imagine you were to tailor a dress shirt, it's inside out, you measure it, you pin it. Well, this is what you're left with right here. This piece of fabric that's sticking up. Now, like we said, we can finish this with a zigzag stitch or we can cut it with some pinking shears, but it's still kind of just flapping along. And it's not a huge deal, but it's a little bit uncomfortable, but you can end up, kind of tucking all of this in here and it feels just amazing. So the first thing that we actually want to do is we need to get our stuff. You can't see that. You need some pins and you need a pair of scissors. Now what I did is I just did a normal straight stitch on this guy. It was set at level 2 on my machine and I gave myself 5/8 of a seam allowance. Hey SD, what's a seam allowance? That's just the distance between the stitch and the edge of your fabric. That's literally it. And if you've never tailored anything before, you can go get caught up down there in the description. It's honestly super easy. So let's start with this one over here. What you want to do is you want to take this, see how, again, it's all sticking up. We don't really like that very much. What you want to do is you want to press this out and get this as flat as you can get it. If you want to iron it down, you could totally do that. I would do that, but to be honest with you, I just don't feel like going to heat up the iron. So yeah, you just press this guy down here, get it nice and flat. And then what you want to do is you want to take your scissors and you want to cut the right side down close to your seam, as close to your seam, your stitch as you can get it. So you're gonna cut all of this half off here. Okay, now we're gonna take that part that we just cut off and we're gonna get rid of it. And you're gonna take the longer half here, move these guys out of the way. You're gonna take the longer side here and you're gonna tuck everything. You're gonna take it, you're gonna fold it down so that this edge of this flap that you have, it ends up meeting right where your stitch is. So take it and fold it down to there. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold it over. So it's gonna look just like that. Let's do it again. So take this long flap here, the long part of your flap, and you're gonna take it and you're gonna fold it over so that the edge of this flap meets your stitch right there. And then you're gonna take it and you're gonna fold it over again so that it lies flat. Do you know why I just said the word flat? I'll give you one guess. No, I'm just kidding. And then what you wanna do is when you have that guy in place right there, you wanna take your pins and you wanna pin it right in place so that it holds it there. And when you're folding over and then folding over again and pinning, what I actually like to do is I like to do it in sections. So this part here is already pinned, but nothing else is folded over. And that's because it's a lot easier to just do it as you go along. Because if you try and fold everything over as you do it and then go back and pin everything up, nothing's really gonna hold. Everything's gonna kind of shift on you a little bit and it's gonna move out of place and you're not gonna be too happy about that. Okay, now once you have everything pinned up, we're gonna go back and we're just gonna sew another straight stitch right along where these pins are. So I've got my machine all set up the way that it was before. My stitch length is at 2, my stitch width, it doesn't matter because that's irrelevant. I'm just using a regular needle, some polyester thread, and we're doing the same thing that we did before. We're sewing in a straight line. Now normally I will straight zoom through my projects when I'm tailoring things, but this is something that you absolutely want to just take your time on. Go as slow as you absolutely need to. If you think you're going too slow, you're not. You're actually going the right speed. And the reason for that is because you want to make sure that this line that we're now sewing is straight as well. Because if it's a little bit crooked, what's going to happen is you're going to notice it relative to the other straight line that we have. Awesome, there's a helicopter outside. And not only do we want to make sure that we're sewing this line in a straight line as well, but we want to make sure that we get our stitch on the edge of the fabric right there as much as we can. So it's kind of this balancing act between the two. It's a balancing act between sewing in a straight line and making sure that you're in the right spot on that edge right there. So you kind of have to just find that happy medium. And if you need to, you can adjust your fabric just a tad. You can turn it just a tad in the event that you kind of, you start coming off of that fabric or you're going in a direction that you don't want to, but you don't want to do that too much. And the reason why is because, well, I'll show you why in a second. And once you are done, you are going to be left with a nice, perfectly straight, whoa, SD, what you got going on down here? Well, this is what I meant about that happy medium, about finding that balance between making sure that you're going straight and making sure that you stay right on this edge right here. Because what happened is I saw that I was about to come off with my stitch there, so I corrected it right there. I turned my garment, but I turned it too much. So I started coming in on the inside and I kept going, but by the time that I noticed that, I was too far in, it was kind of too late. It was already there. So I came back out on the outside and went down there, and it's fine overall, but this is why you want to practice this one. This one is very, very easy to do, but it's more difficult to perfect than some of the other things that we've done on this channel. But that's why we practice everything. This is why I like to show you guys how to do it. This is why I'm totally okay with mistakes. It's not a mistake. It's something that nobody would ever notice. If this was a black dress shirt with black thread in it, no, nobody would ever notice that. And this is what you guys give me a hard time about the comments, and I'll tailor something like this and I'll use like a different colored thread. Well, that's why, so you can see exactly what it is that I do. So practice this one for sure. Now, I wanted to show you 2 different ways to do this, but I could actually just show you on this one. If you were to measure and pin and all that stuff, if you were to sew your seam on one of the sides of your shirt like this is the flat felt seam that you would have. But you could totally reverse all of that. If you measured and pinned and did all that stuff on your shirt right side in, it'd look like this. And if you did it right side out, it would actually look like this. This is where our fold was. You can't see this stitch, but you can see this stitch. So this is something that you might see sometimes on a dress shirt where you could only see one of them. It's not something that you have to do. It's something that just it's open for like creative interpretation. If you want to do something like this, totally go ahead. I mean, it's something different, but you don't have to. Either one is fine. And now that the sun totally decided to go behind the clouds and rain on my parade, and now my lighting is all different, I'm going to take this opportunity to let you know to subscribe and click the bell notification, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. SD out, deuces!